I wish they'd spoken to me first. I would have told them, do not get into a pattern in which you're intimidated by these kinds of criminal attacks.
Is there a secret reason why Barack Obama said no to appearing in a Netflix sci-fi show, even though the creators of Game of Thrones wanted him? Turns out Obama had a surprising explanation. He wants to be ready for a real alien invasion. Barack Obama, the ex-president of the United States, said no to being in a small part in a new Netflix show called Three-Body Problem. The show is based on a famous sci-fi book and costs a lot to make. The people making the show, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, asked Obama because they knew he liked the book. Benioff mentioned in an interview that Obama wrote a funny note saying he wanted to save himself in case there is a real alien invasion. So he turned down the offer. After the ending of Game of Thrones in 2019, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss are back with a big new project called Three-Body Problem. This time, it's not about dragons and kingdoms. It's about protecting Earth from aliens. So it's a change from what they did before. Weiss thought the book was really interesting because it's different from what they usually do. The cast has some cool actors like Jess Hogg, John Bradley, Eiza Gonzalez, Joan Arabo, and Liam Cunningham. They're hoping to make 3 movies out of it and keep telling the story for another 10 years, hoping it'll be as popular as Game of Thrones. The biography digs deeper than what's already out there about Barack Obama. Instead of using just what Obama or the press has said, the author did their research. They went all over the world, Kenya and Indonesia, and spent a lot of time investigating. The author also visited places like Hawaii, Kansas, Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago, where Obama and his family have been. They talked to lots of people and found old letters, journals to tell Obama's true story for the first time. One interesting chapter in the book is about Obama's time in the New York City when he was young. In the 1980s, Obama felt like he was watching his own life from a distance, kind of like the main character in a book called The Moviegoer by Walker Percy. He was always observing, just like his mom, who was an anthropologist, someone who studied people. During this time, Obama was thinking a lot about himself and what he wanted. It took a while for Obama to figure out who he was and what he wanted to do. He had to learn about other sides of his family, the African side and the white side from Kansas. He looked at what his ancestors went through and how their lives came together. It's kind of amazing how random it all was, like meeting in a Russian class. In Honolulu in 1962, Barack Obama was born. Growing up, he had to figure out who he was as a biracial and cross-cultural kid without a dad around much. His mom was supportive but busy, so he lived with his grandparents. It was a time of trying to understand himself and what he wanted to do. The book is all about Obama's life, how he became who he is, and the tough 9 years from college to community organization. During that time, he was trying to understand himself and find his place in the world. We think it's amazing. After almost 10 years, we finally have a book that tells us everything about Barack Obama. It would have been nice to have this before he became the president. The book is called Rising Star and it's 1,000 pages long. On this show, we have David Garrow, who wrote the book about Obama's life before he became president. Did you find new stuff in your book that nobody knew about? Even during Obama's time as president and in the Senate, it's pretty surprising that even after being president for 8 years, there were still big parts of Obama's early life that nobody knew about until now. It's not just a small thing, it's a big deal. So this person is like his smartest buddy. They went to Harvard Law School together, and this buddy helped fix up his autobiography, Dreams from My Father. Surprisingly, journalists didn't figure this out sooner. So in 2007/2008, in the book you mentioned that the old president talked to a bunch of folks during his time in politics and asked them not to spill the beans to journalists because it could make him look bad. The thing is, from 1985 to 2002 in Illinois, Barack Obama was a cool progressive politician. I'm a progressive Democrat too, so we get it. But the Obama we saw in the White House and even now is quite different from the guy in the 1990s. This guy digs into how he changed intellectually and politically, and it's pretty eye-opening. Hey, we know we are all about the left and that's cool, but when we read the end of the book, those last 20 or 60 pages where you wrap up your thoughts on President Obama, it seemed pretty harsh. Did all the facts lead you to that conclusion? It's just surprising how Obama's presidency turned out, right? The epilogue in the book is pretty critical, especially from the viewpoint of a progressive Democrat. Back in Illinois, Obama was all about single-player health coverage and was totally against stuff like the Patriot Act and intelligence stuff. So the Obama we saw as president was way different from the guy up in 2002. Back then, he lived a simple middle-class life, but now in 2017, he's hanging out with celebs, musicians, and billionaires, even getting paid a lot for speeches. He's not the same guy anymore. From 1985 to 2002, he was one person. But now he's different. The book breaks it down. You probably analyzed him more than anyone else alive, maybe except his wife, and you came to the conclusion in the epilogue that he's, well, kind of like an empty shell, right? It's kind of unsettling and confusing how much he's changed in the past 15 years. Back in the 1990s and up to 2002 in Illinois, his record made him seem like someone we thought we knew, but turns out he's not quite who we expected. He's still a decent guy, but not what we thought. So from 1985 to 2002, he was one kind of person, but the drive to win and become the president changed him. And that's pretty sad, honestly. And you're correct that Michelle Obama wasn't his first pick for a wife. He had some criteria he used to decide who to marry from 1986 to 1991. Barack had a significant relationship with a woman who was half Dutch and half Japanese. She was amazing, just like me, an academic and a scholar. Surprisingly, journalists never found out about her, even though they could have just checked out who else lived in Barack's place by going to the University of Chicago library. But it's not just her. His closest buddy from law school, Rob, also played a big role in helping him with his book Dreams from My Father. It's surprising how American journalism didn't find out about these important folks in Barack's early life for so long. But it looks like at crucial times, Obama made decisions that weren't very personal or human. Instead, it seemed like he made decisions based on politics, even going way back to who he chose to marry. There is a sort of detachment in his decisions, and we are not saying this to be political, it just really stands out. So there is this feeling that the main guy has like a chill right in the middle of him, and it stands out. We think he's got big dreams, like really big political dreams. He started talking about them way back in 1987. The folks he was super tight with back then also shared his big dreams, and those dreams were a huge deal for him. Joining Jeremiah Wright's Trinity United Church of Christ was part of that journey too. So in our last question, we mentioned seeing yourself as a progressive, a liberal, basically someone on the left side of the things. The New York Times went after your book in a review, and it seemed like the biggest issue was that you criticized Obama towards the end. So at the end of the book, because we are critical of Obama, and the New York Times didn't like that, we are surprised that some folks on the left are having a hard time with it. In today's world, especially in politics, sometimes people let their loyalty to their side get in the way of being fair.
Who believe that America is a constant work in progress. Who believe that loving this country requires more than singing its praises or avoiding uncomfortable truths.
As an academic and historian, it's disappointing to see professionalism take a backseat to partisanship. It's frustrating when people get all caught up in supporting their side, but we are looking at the bigger picture. We believe this book will be the go-to source for Obama's presidency for years to come.
We've got to be able to talk to each other and listen and occasionally compromise and stay principled, but recognize that it's a long march towards progress.
Do share your thoughts in the comments below. Also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button before you go. We will meet you in the next one.